Okay, y'all, I'm back, and I have started inking the strip. Um, we're actually opening up here on the first panel. Like y'all saw last time, it was all drawn out. Now here we are. We got some inks in, and let me just show you. Yep, there's the lines, inks. Whew. Well, so my experience with inking this comic strip is that it's kind of slow going right now. Partially because I'm tired. Drawing this comic just took a lot out of me, so inking is usually the easier thing to do, and it still is the easier thing to do. It's just also still tiring, I guess. But here we go. Part of the reason I'm recording more is it does help me with productivity. It kind of gets me motivated because I can talk to a disembodied listener, or viewer, listener and view listener, somewhere on the internet, watching this, listening to me ramble, possibly turning the audio down, or not. Maybe gluing into it and kicking back and watching me ink. I really like inking. It's a lot of fun. It just sometimes you have to really get yourself into the mindset for it. Like listening to an audiobook or having a TV show on in the background, that helps. Or talking to a friend over the phone, that helps. My favorite way to ink, though, of course, is with pen and paper, but can't always do that, you know? Sometimes time constraints call for something a little more flexible, a little more fluid, a little more something with more options. Something that allows you to be a little messy and make mistakes and try things over and over again. And that's what digital art programs are for, you know? Let you pull that kind of thing off. So now I am painting this figure of our baby, a toddler, eating some lunch. I think I wanted to have them, so I'm just kind of. This is very vague in the line art, but the line that I'm trying to describe here is to better show like their action, which is that they're clapping basically for avocado, which is something that they do for a lot of different things. They have recently gotten into the spirit of clapping, and it's a very contagious behavior for them. They want to it allows, I don't know, it's just fun, you know? I guess that's with anything when it comes to children. It's like anything that's new, they just want to do it again and again and again until they can't get enough, and until they have enough, and then they never do it again. Yeah, that's true. They just don't do it as often. The zeal for activity gets lost over time, and they move on to other things. And I think everything that I've just described would be applied to adults in different kinds of ways. We do very similar behavior, but it's just in more abstracted ways, or for things that are very serious sometimes. Sometimes it happens with relationships, sometimes it happens with jobs, sometimes it happens with ideologies and philosophies, religion. Just after a while, you're just like, oh, I've had my fill of this. Move on. But then sometimes there are things that we want to do our entire life. I feel that way about art. Maybe not necessarily. I don't know if I necessarily want to draw my entire life, although I will probably end up drawing my entire life in some capacity or another. But the mode of making art, that's something I want to do my entire life, even if it's like different kinds of art, music, sculpture, forms of art I haven't even conceived of yet. Cooking is something that I've recently gotten into a lot lately. Tonight I made dinner for the family, and it was I don't know, some weird cross between jambalaya and fried rice. Although in a lot of ways jambalaya is kind of just Cajun fried rice. But it was good. It was really good. Everybody seemed to enjoy it, so hey, I'll take it. Music is definitely something that I want to get more into as I get older. I have been working hard not to put myself into the mindset that like once you reach a certain age, you have to master something that you've been good at for a long time. And I've been more like, maybe it's better to try and master several different things at the same time, learn more, do some things where you just never will master it, but you get to a place where you're confident with it. I spent a certain amount of time in my life doing audio editing, and also like I in high school I was part of a mock art noise band called the Goth Conglomerate. We made 3 albums, almost made a 4th, and I would say I did not actually like anything. Well, in some ways I do like all of it, and in some ways I don't. It's hard to explain, I guess. It's just like some things are fun because the process of creating them was fun, and that's what I returned to. And then other things I just feel proud about, and I didn't really feel that way about any of the music I made until the 3rd album, which was entirely like a found source album. I don't know how else to describe it, but it was an album I had put together with my friend Austin. We had both put it together using different techniques, but one of the major techniques was using oh, by the way, I'm like spinning forever on this hand. I think So this is kind of, I was saying something about this last time about, how good your groundwork is really determines your success later on. And I think the groundwork that I put on this hand, holding an avocado, not the best groundwork. I think it's really showing at this stage. Just hand is too big. Just looks. It doesn't. It's not constructed well. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of reworking here. This thumb though, I'm happy with that. How that is. It's just like maybe this avocado needs to be moved up. But anyway, me and my friend Austin made an album together under the Goth Conglomerate band name. And the name of that album was called Music for Castlewanians, which the title was a riff off of Brian Eno's Music for Airports. And it was basically like me and Austin were, in some sense, parodying ambient music by filling the album with tracks that were not pleasant to listen to at all. Some of them were pretty pleasant to listen to. A lot of them weren't, and part of our groundwork for that album is we had found a resource for terrible quality voice acting in video games, which was at the time and is still a pastime that we had both shared together and with our other friends, because we were both huge video game nerds, and we play a lot of video games, and sometimes, especially in the early days of 3D games, and when the use of voice was still use of vocal tracks was still like this thing that seemed like a really risky move, I think, for a lot of developers, because the recording quality wasn't quite there. But there were there were those developers that would take risks, or be like, well, what the hell, we're gonna do it. And they hired, quote unquote, or maybe they didn't hire, maybe they were just interns in a lot of those situations, but they got voice actors to do vocal tracks for their games, and in a lot of those early games, the vocal tracks are just, it's not even entirely the fault of the voice actors. In a lot of cases, it's also just bad writing on the part of the developers and the game designers. But anyway, it's interesting because there's a lot of charm to that stuff too. Like, people who are fans of Resident Evil, the Resident Evil games, they just, what would Resident Evil be without Jibble Sandwich? Jiffle Sandwich, depending on where you stand on that controversy. But anyway, for more context, that there was an infamous line in the first Resident Evil game where one of the characters makes a proclamation about how they were afraid you had been squashed, and the expression that they use for it is goes something to because the main character, her name is Jill Valentine, I think is the main character's name, and your partner Barry Burton steps in after a very harrowing experience, and It says something to the effect of like, "If I hadn't been there a second sooner, you could have been a jiffle sandwich or jibble." There's there's much controversy with that, but anyway, it's a line that's really confusing to people who have played the game because everybody is like, "Well, your main character's name's Jill, so I don't understand. How did this mistake get made? How did it get kept in the game? Was there a quality check done for this? How did this happen?" I think a lot of times with those sorts of, I don't even know what to call them, mistakes, those kinds of bizarre choices that are made for a lot of art forms when it goes terribly awry. Part of, I mean, to give better context of what I'm talking about right now, I'm the kind of person who really enjoys like a really terrible B movie. I just get a lot. Depends on. I mean, some movies are just terrible. But when it comes to a movie like Troll 2, which is probably one of my favorites, or The Stuff, or gosh, it's been so long since I've done The Room. That's another one. There's a lot of them that start with V, but Pod People. There's a lot of those movies just have a certain kind of charm to them that cannot be replicated in a good movie. And I think what that charm is, a lot of the time, is sort of buffoonish sincerity. And I don't know if buffoonish is the right word. It's a sincerity though. Like oftentimes it's connected to a sincerity to the art form, where you know that those choices that they make are not choices you would make, but you know that they made them because they sincerely thought that that was the best choice to make. Plan 9 from Outer Space is another excellent example where you can tell like these kinds of works are these passion projects for these people, and you can see all the work and effort put into it on a level. Past the if you look past the strings and duct tape and bad special effects and missed lines and hamming it up and all that other stuff, you can tell that the people who make those movies are people who really want to make those movies. And I think, to me, it sublimates what would otherwise be a tragedy. Like, oh, all this money, all this time and effort by these people wasted to make something that nobody liked. And it's like, oh, we found a way to enjoy it. It's just being enjoyed in the way it wasn't originally intended. But who cares? Like, art has a life of its own outside of whatever intention you put into it. It's great when you can make art, though. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great when you can make art and the intention like transmits from you to the viewer, to the person who's enjoying the art. And the better it transmits, the better the feeling you have too, a lot of the time. I mentioned this, I think I mentioned this in the previous Drawcast, but I'm working on a comic right now called Bat Monster, and I've shown some snippets of it on Tumblr, but not much. It's currently circulating around in web development hell. The comic is pretty much ready to read. It's just getting the website together has just been kind of kind of a slog. Part of that is because Marco, who has been doing a lot of the web development for my stuff, is just really busy with their own work. And they work as a web developer, so for me, I'm just like, well, it's you do this all day. Maybe it's good that you take a break from it. And so my friend Austin, who's making the comic with me, Austin had a friend who has a friend who, I guess a mutual friend, I don't know. Don't know the guy as well as Austin knows him. But who's a web developer who's doing the current development for Bat Monster. And it's going very slowly, and it's also going in directions that I'm going uncertain about, largely because that person isn't like talking to me directly about anything, and I'm getting snippets about what's going on through Austin, and that makes me a little bit nervous and a little bit like, oh, what's going to go on? What's going to happen here? We just and currently it seems like this person's just ignoring all of my designs for the page, and I really I designed the website for Bat Monster in a very specific way because I wanted to create a very specific effect for the comic, and I'm worried that this person's either not getting it or doesn't care and is just going to do what they think they should do, and that would rub me the wrong way if that happened. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. It's just the process has been so slow, and I don't know what's going on because this person's not communicating with me directly. That I'm kind of left into this limbo of sorts. Anyway, why was I saying this? Oh yeah, so the reason I even bring all this up is because Bat Monster is that kind of thing where I'm like, oh, this could be this whole work could, and I intentionally made it in this way. So that's the other part of that. But it's the kind of thing where the way that me and Austin made it, it's very much meant to be interpreted in several different ways. I don't know how that's going to turn out because I have certain intellectual biases about culture and society lately that I feel like people are not as open to having multiple interpretations of work. Then, is that true, really? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways we live in a time where there's more interpretations than ever of any given body of work. You can find the Marxist read on any given text, or feminist read, or progressive read, or Marxist feminist read, you name it. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many people. There's so many ways now that people can intellectually sort of pull apart and put back together a work of art. And I'm curious to see what that's going to yield for Bat Monster in particular, because I think my hope is that it's going to be all over the place. That's my hope. My hope is that it's going to just be me and Austin will have devised something that is just very like hard to pin down on. And why is that something that I would want to do? Curiosity. That's one reason. Another reason is that for me is personally like an experience that I've really enjoyed about artwork, is having those sorts of conversations with people where I can talk with somebody about like a movie or a video game that we played, but not necessarily played together, and we just have we have totally different experiences with it. I'm the kind of, I guess I'm of the opinion that life lends itself to so many various interpretations and so many various sorts of experiences, even within the same environment, within the same country, within the same timeline. It's just like an infinite, well, a seemingly infinite number of ways that a person can live. A given place and time. For a lot of people, maybe that's not as interesting to them as it is to me, but it's very interesting to me. It's something that it's something that I'm intentionally developing for that particular work. Almost as sort of like an artistic counterpoint to the feeling is multiplied, which I feel like is very direct in how it wants to be interpreted. It's pulled from the collective realities of myself, Lou, and Marco, a child, and our extended family. I draw it in a way that I intend to be at least mostly representative of the reality that we all experience together, and with a lot of Lou and Marco's help, I'm able to resolve a lot of problems that come up with what's entailed in that sort of stylization. Is that a stylization? To pull from reality. But I guess my point being is, this is I think of the film as multiplied as a very sincere work, and probably one of the most sincere things I've ever made. Not that I feel like I make insincere things. I don't know, Danielle's. I need some reference for Danielle's face. One second, folks. I'm gonna look at my phone camera here. I don't know what the problem is. All that noise you may or may not be hearing is the sound of our kiddo upstairs running around. I'm actually going to check out right now because I think Marco and the kid are coming downstairs in just a moment. Thank y'all for watching. I will keep y'all posted on how this develops. I'll talk to you later.